Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Warhammer 40,000 with Zebu Nation. Now, as you can see in the background here, we got a little bit of Space Hulk going on, but I'm just going to use that as a backdrop for today's topic, and today's topic is going to be some recent books that came out, some supplements to the tabletop game of Warhammer 40,000, specifically the 2018 chapter approved and the Imperium Nihilus Vigilus Defiant Book 1, the supplement that came out. So, what are these books and what do they mean to the hobby? Well, chapter approved is basically some new rules that will affect gameplay, without a doubt. And Imperium Nihilus, the Vigilus Defiant, that is basically a campaign book. It's used to sort of spice up your games and give you something extra and new to do. So, let's get down to brass tacks. Let's talk about the value of these books and the value to you as a player. Now, first of all, the straight up cash value. The chapter approved is $35, and Vigilus Defiant is $50. Now, the chapter approved is sort of a lightweight, soft cover, whereas the Vigilus Defiant is a little bit more of a luxurious product. It has a hard cover. It has, all the nice sort of production values that you'd assume of a Games Workshop book. So that's why it's a little bit more expensive. It also is a little bit larger, not significantly larger in terms of content. So really what you're paying for with Vigilus Defiant is the production value. It's just a much nicer, much better product. So let's start with chapter approved. Now, a lot of people have done their reviews of this book, and they've looked at it. Most of them have looked at it from a competitive point of view, in terms of how does this affect your army on the tabletop when you play in tournaments and you play in competitive settings. And I can't really do that. I can't really compare it also to previous chapter approved because it's the first chapter approved that I've ever purchased. So if you're like me, if you're maybe someone who's new to the hobby, maybe you're someone who's more casual in terms of how you play and who you play with, maybe you just play with friends, let's look at it from that point of view. From a casual's point of view, should you buy the chapter approved, and what would you get if you did? Well, should you buy it is hard to say. Do you need it is another question. You don't necessarily need chapter approved. Even if you're a competitive player, and you just want the points list that's in the back of the book, and you just want sort of the new missions that are in the book for competitive play, you can get those elsewhere. You don't necessarily need to buy a $35 book for that. For example, you can get the points totals if you have Battle Scribe, which is a free army list builder. They've already updated their database with the new points totals, so you're looking pretty good there, and you don't need to pay a dime for that, so don't worry about that. So this book is split up into 4 different sections. It has a section for open play, a section for narrative play, matched play, and then an appendix with several things in it. So we'll look at those one by one. First of all, the open play. What is open play? Well, open play is just sort of you pick up and you play, and you kind of make up your own, not necessarily your own rules, but it's a lot of house rules, a lot of just, you play how you want to play. You agree with your friends, and you say, we're going to do this crazy thing, and, throw the rules out that you don't need, and add some new rules that you want. That's open play. It's whatever you want. So they have some interesting rules here for open play, especially for orcs. So if you're an orc player, you might be interested in a lot of these new rules, especially if you're an orc player who likes to kit bash, who likes to put a lot of different components together, build your own vehicles specifically, because they have rules in here for looted vehicles, for wagons, carts, battle fortresses, And they've even got a handy little conversion guide to sort of show you like how to turn a Lehman Russ battle tank into an orky vehicle. It's pretty cool. So that's a neat little section. And then another section they have for anybody, not just orc players, is they have a whole section for custom characters. If you're somebody who likes, you know, maybe the narrative side of things, maybe the role-playing side of things, you've got like this heroic captain or lieutenant or something like that, and you want to give them some special perks, some special abilities, you've got an interesting custom character design area here. It's got like a whole list of, let's see, 66 different abilities that you can give to your characters. Abilities like foresight, once per battle. This model, you can re-roll hit rolls, wound rolls, and damage rolls, or a savings throw. So it's just like a special little save that you can give your character. It's like giving an individual character like a warlord trait kind of thing. You can add sub-faction keywords to your characters. You've got new weapon improvements. You can add an auto-loader to your weapon, or some Inferno rounds. You know, maybe you hooked up with some Death Watch, and they gave you a clip of Inferno rounds just to get you through the mission or something like that. There's a couple of new psychic enhancements in here to help your characters in the psychic phase to make them like a more powerful psyker. And then there's just some generic character modifications, like your character's courageous or mighty, or they're fleet of foot, or they're a blade master, so you get extra attacks or something like that. So it's just some interesting ways to add some flavor to characters. Now these rules don't count in, you know, real matches, in not real matches I should say, but in competitive matches. So you won't be able to bring your special, you know, super psyker with Inferno rounds into a competitive match, but it's still fun if you like to do that kind of thing. And then we go to narrative play, which is a little bit more structured. You know, you still use the basic rules of 40K. You can't just do anything goes like the other kind. But narrative play is more about story. You're trying to build a story with your armies and during your battles, and a lot of time this has to do with campaigns, right? You'll play the same armies and fight the same two armies against each other over and over, trying to do different missions and cure different objectives, and you just sort of make up a story along the way of why these armies are fighting and things like that. So this has got some interesting rules to aid you in that endeavor. For example, the big rule here is battle honors. You can give units within your army battle honors after each battle. So, you know, there's a whole experience points table that you can, you know, use to gain experience points on your units, like an entire unit. And then you can spend those experience points to level up your unit and get them special battle honors, like sharpshooters. You can re-roll ones for that unit. Breachers, you can add one to wound rolls. So if you're got a special unit that's done something cool, like, you know, a unit of Devastators took out a knight or something like that, you can give them one of these battle honors to show that they've experienced, you know, they're now veterans, they've got these special abilities, and it's just another cool way to customize your units. And they've even got these battle honors for monsters and vehicles, and for characters. So anybody does something cool, you can give them one of these little buffs, and that's pretty awesome. Then there's a huge section here called Cities of Death. And this is for a brand new campaign system that they've been working on. It's very cool. I very much like this Cities of Death. They've got a bunch of new missions for this city. They've got everything. Warlord traits, new rules, especially rules for terrain. Like, the point is that you're fighting in a city, and a city, you've got, you know, all kinds of windows and rubble and buildings and all kinds of things to fight around. Now, normal 40K, the rules are very simplistic. It's like nothing matters unless you're in a building or in a piece of terrain then maybe you get like a cover bonus. But other than that, nothing works. Other than line of sight blocking. You have to completely 100% line of sight block, or the terrain is useless in normal 40K. But in the Cities of Death, they've sort of incorporated a lot of rules from Kill Team, especially the obscured targets rule. If you're familiar with that from Kill Team, if any part of your unit is obscured from the shooting unit and you're within 1 inch of a terrain piece, you get a cover bonus. I love that rule. I really wanted that rule in 40K because it actually makes terrain useful. It makes terrain worthwhile. So that they've added that to the Cities of Death tells me that they want to add that into the game proper. They want to add more of those Kill Team rules into 40K, and I think that's very cool. I think that is a definite good idea. They've got rules for lucky hits, for height advantage, for being in dangerous terrain. You know, again, a lot of these rules are from Kill Team. Here's an interesting one that I never really thought of. I don't know that anybody really thought of it this way, but you get a movement bonus if you're moving on streets and roads, which if you think about it, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because what's a road there for? A road is there to help people move from one place to another, make it easier to get along, right? That's why everybody drives on roads. I mean, it's illegally, you have to drive on roads, but the reason roads were invented was to make it easier for people and vehicles and whatever to get from one place to another. So it makes sense that you would get a movement bonus moving on the road. So that's definitely cool. They got differences between soft cover and hard cover. So things like, you know, woods and craters are different than things like ruins and barricades and fortifications, which makes a lot of sense. They've got new deployment things, concealed deployments, the Dawn Raid, which is in a couple of missions, but here now it's a separate rule that's been pulled out. So they pulled out basically all of the terrain rules and put them in one place for you, which is very cool. There's also a whole new section of stratagems that are only used when you're in a city, one of these Cities of Death. So they've got, what, 3, 6, 9, 15, about 20 new stratagems for you to use in different, basically all having to do with some sort of terrain or being in the city. You've got a new hunker down. You've got siege artillery, which can knock down buildings and knock down cover. So not only do they have stratagems to help you use the terrain, but they have stratagems to help you get rid of the terrain too. And some interesting stuff too. Like they have some of their special play sets, like the plasma conduits and all that stuff that come with the Mechanicus sector. They've got ways to use those now. So, example, if you have a plasma gunner standing next to one of those plasma conduits, you can overcharge your gun and not suffer an overload. So it's like you basically take your plasma gun and you plug it into this giant plasma conduit and just blast away with no fear of overheating. That's pretty cool. Same thing for Promethium. You can overcharge your flamer. So that's cool. Basically, same thing. You just siphon off a bunch of Promethium from one of those Promethium pipes and just start blasting away. Pretty cool rules. I'm very excited about all these rules. Then they have a bunch of new missions and new battle zones. The urban battle zones. And all of these also have their own little 1 or 2 different stratagems that come with them. A bunch of new rules that come with each one. New deployment types. They have, let's see, how many missions do they got here? They got 7 new missions. Is that correct? 2, 4, 5 new missions for narrative play, not 7. And, they're all very cool. So, definitely look forward to that. Now, that all being said, I love that stuff. I love the urban zones and this new Cities of Death. However, all of this is just about to become available in a new product that Games Workshop has just released for pre-order, It's called Urban Conquest. It's $100 right now on their website. It's going to come with like terrain and rules and markers for like doing a whole city campaign. So you'll be able to like create your own cities and then go on a campaign to conquer that city. It sounds really cool. I'm excited about it, but it has all of these rules in it. So if that excites you and if you're interested in buying that product, then maybe you don't need this. However, you could look at it the other way and say like $100 for a campaign thing is a lot. But if I can get all those rules here in chapter approved for $35, maybe that's a little better deal. So you can look at it either way. However you want to spend your money, because a lot of people have a limited budget and they can't just buy everything that comes down the pipe. All right, so here we go. Finally, well, not finally, but next on the list we have matched play. Matched play is basically you're going to play by the rules as they're written in the book, and maybe you're in a tournament, maybe you're not, maybe you're just a serious rule type gamer. You're going to play with the matched play rules. They have some new missions in here, some new match play rules that are pretty interesting, and they do some things to change how the game is played. Honestly, two things come to mind. First of all is the deployment. They've changed how deployment works. Basically, how it works is you decide who gets the advantage, right? You roll a die and that person gets the advantage. And that person gets to choose which side of the table they want. You know, do they want the side with the most cover or whatever? They choose which side of the table they want, and then the other person has to deploy their army in full on the other side of the table. You know, however the mission goes. And then they deploy their army second to counteract that. And then the other person who doesn't have the advantage, they choose who goes first and who goes second. So it's an interesting way to balance out that first turn, because a lot of people have complained that first turn is too important in 8th edition. For a lot of people, they say it's an instant win. If my army gets first turn, I can crush the other person, no problem. So this is a way to sort of balance that out. And the other thing that's important about that is that most of these missions, you score points at the end of the round, not at the end of your turn. So that means if you go second in the round, you have the ability to knock the other person off their objectives. So there's a little bit of an advantage for going second, not just going first and I'll just blast the other person off the table and win. Now the other person has the chance, who goes second, to play more strategically and to, you know, win the mission even if they happen to get blasted off the table. And that brings me to the second, or the third, I guess, huge change, is that the victory conditions have changed for a lot of these missions. A lot of these missions have a new victory condition called acceptable losses. Acceptable casualties, sorry. Meaning the rules for sudden death no longer apply. Meaning if you get tabled, if your whole army is destroyed, you don't automatically lose the match or the mission. It means whoever has the most points wins the mission. So the other team, if they brought like just 4 giant knights and they just stomp through and destroy your army, but they've got no points because they didn't take any objectives, you still win the game if you took more objectives than them. So that's another way to balance out these missions and these armies, is to change the way they're scored, and that's an interesting point. Very, very interesting. They've also changed some of the other victory conditions, like, for example, first strike. There's no longer a first blood, at least not in these missions, meaning that whoever kills an enemy first gets a point, and the other person has no chance to get a point. Now it's if you kill an enemy unit in your first turn, whomever it may be, either person, whoever kills an enemy in their first turn gets a point. So that gives both sides a chance to get that point. Again, it's taking away the advantage of going first and making the game a little bit more balanced. Happy about that. So there are new Eternal War missions. Let's see how many. There are 7 new Eternal War missions, and there are 7 new Maelstrom missions in here. These are all very important when it comes to playing a competitive match. So, if you're interested in competitive matches, this is definitely a good thing to have access to these missions, because they change the game, and they make it better and more balanced, in my limited opinion. Now, can you get these elsewhere? I don't know if there's any other product you can get these from. If you're in a tournament, the tournament will provide you with rules, so that's fine. I'm sure you can get copies of this somewhere online if you want to go that route. In terms of another product, I don't know that they're available in another product just yet. So finally, the last part is the appendix. And the appendix has a bunch of stuff in it. The appendix is like half the book, honestly. It has some new rules for battlefield terrain. Again, it's rules that have been pulled out of the urban conquest part of it and put just on their own. So basically, you have all the terrain rules in one place that you would need in a game. So it's got the rules for the different types of terrain. The Imperial Sanctuary, the Sector Mechanicus, all that stuff, the Death World Forests, bunch of different stuff. So basically it's just a handy little reference for terrain rules. And then it has a beta codex in here. I don't know if you heard about this. Hopefully you heard about this. But the Adeptus Sororitas are coming as an army. And they've put the beta codex in the chapter approved. So if you're interested in playing the Sisters of Battle, you might want to take a look at them and take a look at this codex. There might even be time to make some suggestions to Games Workshop to say, hey, I like this about the codex, I don't like that about the codex. Can you make some changes, or have you made any changes? You can keep up with that at the Games Workshop website. And maybe help forge an army here. I'm not too big into the Adeptus Sororitas. I don't know a heck of a lot about how they play as an army. I mean, I've seen battle reports and stuff like that. But they do have, a lot of cool units, a lot of neat rules, and there's some new stuff in here. The Acts of Faith, which are kind of like their version of orders, but a little more faith-based and weird. I honestly don't like these at all, in my opinion, because you have to keep track of some extra thing. You have this thing called devotion points that you have to use. And it's not like Psychers, where everybody has their own number of points and you keep up with Psychers pretty easily. There's like a pool of points, and you use some here and some there, and you make dice rolls, and you do all this weird stuff, and I don't like it. I think it should either be like Psychers or like Orders. One of the two. It shouldn't be its own new thing. Like, just make it a more consistent type system, where each individual sister has her own faith powers, and you need to roll whatever it is, a 7, and your faith goes off. You don't need to keep track of points. You don't have a running tally, a running total. Because the battle reports I've seen that have used these, half the people just sort of forgot about them and stopped using them. They're like, how many points do I have left? I don't know. If they even remember that part. They just go on and they don't use them at all. So not only are they overly complicated, they're actually not that great either. So if you're going to keep them not very good in terms of what they can do, like there's stuff that lets you move a model like extra 3 inches. There's stuff that gives you an extra reroll here or there. There's a Shield of Faith, which is nice. It gives you a 6-up invulnerable. I guess that's okay. But again, you have to make a roll, you have to spend these weird faith points, and it's not worth it, in my opinion. They've got some new units in here. They've got, like, they've taken the whole of the, not the whole, but most of the priests and the missionaries and all of that. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm looking for the Ministorum. That's what I'm talking about. The whole Adeptus Ministorum is sort of rolled into this as well. So not only do you have the Battle Sisters, of course Celestine is in here, but you can also have priests, you can have missionaries, you can have preachers. There's also an interesting thing in here. Death Cult Assassins are in here, which they're definitely part of the whole Ministorum milieu, if you will. So it's interesting to add them in here. I think they should add the Sisters of Silence in here too. Sisters of Silence have become a more religious organization. If you've been reading any of the newer books, you can tell that they've definitely turned that page, and they're now, devotees of the Emperor as a god. So put them in here too. Give them a place to go. Maybe not the Inquisition, because the Inquisition is its whole separate thing. But they also have some other of the sisters, not just the Sisters of Battles, but they have the Sisters Hospitaller. They have the Sister Dialogus. So you can add some other flavor to your sisters. It's very cool. Of course, they have the Immolator tank and the Rhino and Penitent engines and all of that crazy stuff. So if you're into the Sisters of Battle, there you go. And then the points values. The points values are what everybody is looking for. And oh wait, there's another codex in here. There's a mini codex. I forgot about that. There's a mini codex for the Questor Traitoris, or the Renegade Knights. So if you have a knight in your Chaos army, now you've got proper rules for them here. You don't just have to use the Astra Militarum rules or something like that. You don't have to use the Imperial rules. You can now use these Renegade rules and make your guys a little bit more chaosy. They've got new points values and all that stuff. Detachment rules, so you can have your own traitorous knight detachment. They've got, let's look at the units here. They have the Renegade Knight, the Renegade Knight Dominus, the Renegade Armiger. Those are the 3 units they have in here. Attachment rules, you have your 2 stratagems, rotate ion shields, and trail of destruction. So you can actually use some stratagems with your knights instead of, sort of fudging the rules, I guess. And then they also have a new detachment for the Tau, known as the 8. And these are the heroes of the Farsight Enclave. They're 8 hero units that work together as a unit for the Farsight Enclave, not for all of Tau, just the Farsight Enclave. But it's basically battle suit heroes. It's pretty cool. It's like the 7 samurai of the Tau. You've got, of course, Commander Farsight is in there. Commander Bravestorm, who's some sort of plasma gunner, again, in battle suits. They're all in battle suits. Commander Bright Sword, who is your fusion gunner. Shasso Shavastos, who is your flame gunner. Shasso Arakan, who he's got an XV-85 Enforcer battle suit, so that's a little bit of a heavier battle suit. Then you've got a broadside hero. You got an interesting Riptide hero who's actually part of the Earth cast. He's not a fire cast, which is odd, very odd. Normally, all warriors in Tau are fire cast, but this guy's Earth cast, meaning he's an engineer. So he sort of fights more like an engineer than he does a warrior. He's got some interesting rules to him. And then Commander Torch Star. Twin Flamers. So again, more Flamers. So interesting little group of heroes for your Farsight Enclave. And again, they come as their own little detachment. So there you go. Let's see. Then we get to the points values. And the points values are just what they are. They're just points reductions for a lot of models. Not every model, but a bunch of models have gotten points reductions. And you'll have to use these to build your armies. Like I said, it's probably best to get Battle Scribe and use that to build your armies, because then you don't have to do everything by hand and wonder if you did the arithmetic correct and all that stuff. I will say that I had 3 different armies, each 1,000-point lists. That's kind of what I used to judge this on. So I had a Black Templars army, went down by about 120 points, mainly because I had a lot of veterans, I had a lot of Melt-A-Guns, stuff like that. All of that went down in points. Tech Marines went down in points. They're much more affordable now. Characters went down in points. They're much more affordable now. My Tau 1,000-point list went down also by about 112 points, something like that. And again, most of that was from Crisis Suits. Crisis Suits have gone down in price. All of the battle suits have gone down in price, trying to get you to put more battle suits into your armies. Less Fire Warriors, more battle suits. Broadsides have gone down a lot. A lot of the weapons have gone down a lot. Plasma rifles, fusion blasters, all of that stuff has gone down. Tiny amounts, but if you have a lot of those in your army, it adds up. And Death Guard, characters have gone down a lot. And then also, just like basically mirroring the Space Marines, their heavy weapons went down, their veterans went down. Demons and stuff like that didn't really go down much. Poxwalkers, I don't believe, went down any. Let me see here. Oh, that's War Gear. War Gear, not War Gear. I don't want War Gear. I want the actual characters. Where'd they go? It's Chaos Marine War Gear. Now we're just vamping. Here we go. Nope. Poxwalkers did not go down. That kind of stuff. Mostly characters, vehicles. Hellbrutes went down to 60 points, so that's pretty good. Plague Marines, 16 points. I think they were like 17 or 18, but anyway, maybe they've been 16 for a while. Seems like they've been 16 for a while. But anyway, again, about 100 points for a 1,000-point army. That seems to be the average. So it's not like your army is going to get a massively amount better. But it will get somewhat better, and you'll at least be able to add more stuff to it. And that's fun. Definitely fun. Okay, so there you go. There is chapter approved. Pretty good book, $35. It's not that expensive. It gets you a lot of good stuff, although it's stuff you can get elsewhere if you want to. So I feel like if you don't play competitive and you're not interested in the campaign stuff, you got rules that you're happy with, you can stick with it for the time being and just wait for maybe a new rules book to come out with all of this stuff in it. We'll see. Next up is Vigilus Defiant. This is a campaign book. I really like this book. I really, really do. I also got a free pin to come with it, a little Vigilus veteran pin that came with it, so that's always nice to get a little extra swag. So this has a lot of narrative in it. If you're looking for information on the Vigilus campaign, this is where to go. So Vigilus right now is where all the narrative is taking place in the universe, in the galaxy of 40K. The Chaos armies have destroyed... the Chaos armies have destroyed Cadia. The Rift has opened, the Great Rift, all across the galaxy. And now the only place to get from one side of the Imperium to the other side of the Imperium is this one narrow channel that passes through Vigilus. So everybody's going to Vigilus to fight there and to take control of this narrow passage that allows them to go through the Great Rift. So you got a lot of problems going on there. And this book is very cool. It's basically an order of battle for the campaign on Vigilus. It's very cool. If you've ever read like an actual military book, like about, the Battle of the Bulge or whatever like that, where they give you what units were there, what was their disposition, how did they move out. They give you maps with arrows on them saying, this unit did a flanking maneuver here and engaged this unit at this time, this day. It does a lot of that in this book. It's very cool. You get a lot of maps, a lot of cool art. There's stories on basically everybody that's taking place here. So it's essentially everybody except for the Tau and the Necron is there, I think. Just about everybody else is there. You got all kinds of different Space Marines. You got all kinds of different chaos and aliens and all that stuff. Most notably, the Orcs are there. The Orcs have a speed Wa going on this planet. It's kind of like a Wa, but with more speed. They've actually built their own scrap towns. So you've got like a diagram of some scrap towns and what's in a scrap town. Like, have you ever thought of like what do Orcs do after they've conquered a planet? And they do have a civilization. They're not just mindless mobs. Like, they have their own culture with a K, and this sort of goes into that a little bit. Like, what do they do in their downtime? They build scrap cities, I guess. You also have another huge faction here are the Gene Stealer cult. It's been on the planet. It's been waiting to prepare the planet for, of course, the coming of the great star god, but they've been interrupted by this Speed Wa and all these other forces attacking the planet. The cult has decided to rise early, and if you've seen any of the advertisement on the Games Workshop website, you'll know that they're getting a new codex and they're getting a bunch of new models. So the Gene Stealer cult's going to become a big thing in 2019, and this gives you a lot of cool references of what they're doing, what they're up to. This new cult called the Pauper Princes have risen from the underbelly of the hives, and they're causing lots of hysteria. The whole section on them, the Doom from Within, they're calling it. As I mentioned, the Orcs have attacked. There's a whole thing on the Orcs attacking and counterattacking and all these different battles. The Gellerpox infection is here. If you did what is the box set that was released? It was an expansion to Kill Team. You know the one I'm talking about, where you're flying around in the spaceship. Oh, I'm blanking on it right now. I'm totally blanking on it. But anyway, the Gellerpox infection has made its way here, and so that means, the Death Guard can't be too far behind, or at least some version of Nurgle and Plague and nastiness is coming. Space Marines, of course, are also there. The Space Wolves have shown up. They're fighting their own sort of protracted battle across the southern part of the galaxy against Gene Stealer cults of all make and model. All form and fashion of Gene Stealer cults are breaking out all over the southern part of the galaxy, and the Space Wolves, that's what's keeping them busy these days. So a contingent of Space Wolves are here to fight the Gene Stealer cult. Marneus Calgar, chapter master of the Ultramarines, is dispatched here by the Primarch to take control of the situation. And you can see there's a whole timeline of the battle and how it rolls out and what happens once Calgar gets there and how it changes and all of that. There's a new Chaos faction that shows up, that Harkin World Claimer. You've probably seen that model. He's here. He's got his whole detachment of Raptors, and they're trying to cause all the chaos that they can until, who knows, somebody's going to show up. Most people are saying it's going to be the Black Legion, and Abaddon the Despoiler is going to show up. That's not in this book. Abaddon is not in this book, but Harkin World Claimer is, and his Raptors are here. So you can have those battles and those characters. That's very cool. And yeah, it's an awesome book. I really like it. Especially if you love the lore. The whole first half of the book is like all just lore and battles and maps and cool stuff. They've got, like I said, the list of forces. So you got the forces of the Imperium. They show like what regiments are there, what attack groups are there. It's very cool. Very cool. Maps, again, as I mentioned, I'm very excited about the maps, apparently. The Dark Angels are there, of course. The Imperial Fists are here. They got a new box set recently, so you know they're going to show up. A lot of the successor chapters are here. The Sons of the Phoenix and all their purple and white glory are here. Void Tridents. A lot of guys I never heard of. I never heard of Void Tridents before, but they're here. Adeptus Mechanicus are here. It's a Forge world, so you know they're going to be here. The Adeptus Sororitas are here. They've got like a conclave here, so that's no good. Orcs, all that stuff. Then you get to the second half of the book, and you get to the campaign rules. They've got new campaign rules for Vigilus. Very interesting stuff. So you can organize a campaign. You've got glory points that you can use to like organize your army. They've even got like a list of phases, like depending on which part of the war you choose to play in, because the war is like, I don't know how long it's been going on. It's like 100 years or something. Some crazy amount of time has been going on for this war. But you can choose like phases to fight in, and so you can say like, you know, the first battle we fought is during like the beginning of the war, and it's got these special rules. And then the second half, the second battle we're fighting is in the middle of the war, and it's got these special rules. So it's very cool. Very cool stuff to add to your campaign, just to add more flavor and more background to your campaign. There are events that you can roll on of the table, such as the planet is swept by torrents of corrosive rainfall, hampering all forces out in the open. So, acid rain. Roll a d6 at the start of each battle round. On a 1, 2, or 3, subtract 1 from hit rolls made from shooting attacks during that battle round. So, just little, environmental effects to add more stuff to your campaign. And then they've got new missions. Narrative play missions. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Of course, counting them out. Boy, they got a lot. 6, 7 new ones. 8. They're everywhere. They keep going. They keep going. How many are there? 10, 11. 11 new missions. And all these new missions have their own stratagems and their own victory conditions and battle lengths and all of that stuff. So you could, as a campaign supplement, this could keep you going for a very, very long time. Let's see. Oh, there's new rules in here, not just for campaigns, but also for your faction. There's new faction rules, mainly centering around the idea of specialist detachments. So basically what you can do is you build your army list as you normally would with your detachments, and then you can spend a command point to change one of those detachments into a specialist detachment. And they've got different detachments for different armies, of course. And they're specific to that army. So, for example, for the Ultramarines, you can have the Indomitus Crusaders. And they've got their own stratagems, they've got their own warlord traits, even their own relics that you can use. The Ultramarines also have the Victrix Guard, which is another. So you can take a unit. Let's say you take a unit and you fill it up. This is what I'm going to do, honestly. I'm going to take a Victrix Guard detachment. I've got a unit. It's going to have like a bunch of Honor Guard and a bunch of veterans and stuff like that. And I'm going to turn it into a Victrix Guard unit, and it's going to get some special bonuses, some special Warlord traits, just for having that in my army. So that's very cool. Imperial Fists get one. Black Templars get a Sword Brethren, something that a lot of Black Templar players have been looking forward to, myself included. I have a Black Templar army. So now you can take one of your detachments and proclaim them to be Sword Brothers. And, you get the bonuses that go along with that. Raven Wings have the Raven Wing Attack Squadron is there. Space Wolves get a Stalker Pack. There's Cybernetica, Servitors. There's the Anointed Throng for the Genestealer Cult. So I think just about every army that's here gets one. Wind Rider Host for the Eldari. Wraith Hosts. Astra Militarum gets some. Everybody gets one. Tempestus Drop Force. A Stompa Mob for the Orcs. A Cult of Speed is now has official rules and its own official stratagems and all that stuff. The Dread Wasp. You can have all of your Dreadnoughts or whatever they are. Anyway, your big Stompas and Shootas. Yeah, the Orcs get a bunch of new detachments in here as well. So there you go. Vigilus, Defiant. I like that. $50 is a lot. But I think if you're into the narrative side of play, and if you're looking for a new cool campaign, something to spice up whatever it is you're doing, Vigilus Defiant is a pretty good supplement. Now, as I mentioned, the Urban Conquest is coming out, but that's $100. So I don't know about that one. That one's a little bit expensive, but for half the price, Vigilus Defiant is a pretty good one. Or you could even, stick with just the chapter approved. That's got stuff in there for you. That's got all the Urban Conquest stuff in it, or at least some of it. And you could use that to spice up your games. So I think either or both of these are pretty good if you're a narrative type player. If you're a competitive type player, maybe less, maybe not so much. But there we go. I think that's all my opinions that I can possibly share on this topic. Now, the video we're watching here isn't quite ended. I got a few minutes left, but honestly, I think I'm going to end it here just because I said all I can say, and I can't say no more. So, until next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.